Hey, welcome to another installment of Shop Talk Tuesday from I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out in my garage. Literally, this is a garage. And it's a garage shop, and it's a garage shop bike shop. And it's a safe place for hopefully most either mechanics, bike shop owners, cyclists as well. Don't want to leave out the cyclists because that's what keeps everything going around. And this is kind of hopefully a safe space for us to talk about the industry, latest highlights, news, and particular topics, in addition to other side notes on maybe some tech tips, questions, and then, in any case, you know what I mean. Thanks for hanging out with me at Shop Talk Tuesday. There is a chat. Feel free to ask some questions or jibber jabber in there with other mechanics and other community members alike. In addition to, if you're watching this on the replay, please comment below, share into the community itself, and you're more as welcome. And yes, this is a community that is growing and been trying to build and trying to give good industry perspectives, as well as, gives me an opportunity to talk to people because I am a individual sole proprietorship of a business, and therefore I work a lot by myself. Although I do work from home, which is the garage, and I do have, life interruptions like kids and family and dogs and pets and everything else, right? So without further ado, we're going to dive into this. But yeah, we have a few topics to talk about today, and we were going to address some of the, interesting elephants in the room of our bandwidth. And this is an opportunity for you to either sit back and relax and listen in and chime in if you feel like into the chat or the comments below. And this is primarily ad-free, except for my own affiliates. And which you're watching us on the replay, there will be ads added. So if you want to watch it, less ads, watch it live, 10 o'clock Mountain, Shop Talk Tuesday, every Tuesday, for the most part. I still have a life that interrupts these particular moments, but on the most part, we try to be consistent with this. And actually, we're going to need a lot of extra coffee today for sure. All righty. Already got some people jumping on and jumping into the chat. Well, thanks again for joining us here at Shop Talk Tuesday. And let's see here. I'm just watching the notifications and stuff. And I do apologize if you're used to other well-formulated podcasts and YouTube channels. I'm just a guy, a mechanic, doing it all and trying to do YouTube. So do give me a little bit of, understanding and, embrace the chaos and the disruptions and also the technical difficulties, which we all do incur. And I like to do this live because, well, an opportunity for you to engage in versus other podcasts out there within the cycling community. And that also sparks more in other education or conversations, not education. Well, it is educational for me, especially because I'm always learning. And it is the month of Halloween. So we got Bob the Bike Rep, which is an old Cutters fan. If you know where that movie is, snap it into the chat if you are that old. I had a conversation with a meeting the other day, and the person was a little bit younger, and which, they didn't know, and they're like, "Oh, nice skeleton." It's like, "Oh, do you know what Cutters means?" And they're like, blank look, no clue. So, in any case, I believe it's from Breakaway, not the American Flyer, which I get those two confused all the time. But in any case, we'll join into the actual news segment here in a moment. We'll do a couple shout outs for individuals that are starting into the chat. Oh, let's see here. Susan McLaughlin. I'm sorry, I'm going to be horrible because, I'm also partially blind as a mechanic. We don't read well. Anyway, older guys. Frosty morning here in Canada. When the snow flies, the season's over in 2025. Thanks for the video chat. You're welcome, and thank you for bringing that point up. A lot of our seasons typically pretty much end at that first dusting of the snow. And even though you may have an 80 degree day to back that up, it is kind of interesting how people's mindsets put away the bikes and pull out the skis. And we've had massive hardships like that in the 90s. And what I found in today's economical world for bike shops, that we are all leveraging a lot more online sales, off-season projects, and so forth. So even though that first snow hits, it shuts off one valve, but it may give you an opportunity to open up another valve in your shop to, you know, get more revenue going into your shop in the off season. And for cyclists, yeah, that's like colder days, more layers of clothes, all those good things that we all actually try to keep out there in group rides. I did work at a shop, and I'll start the new segment here in a minute. It's just had a thought here. I worked at a shop in Michigan, in Ann Arbor. Wheels in Motion was the name of the shop, and they had this great, glorious ride in January. It's called the Worst Day of the Year ride. And sometimes it wasn't the worst day, but you know, they had a big community event. My goodness, this event pulled so many different cyclists, from gravel to fat tire to all kinds. They had several different routes at the time I was there, and it was a huge turnout. It was a great community event and get people in and that kind of stuff. So it's fun to see things like that shops can actually pull from their cycling community and actually pull off certain events in the dead of winter. And Michigan winters suck. I'm just going to say, compared to Colorado, we'll have a sunny day backed up from a snowstorm, but it'll be sunny and the bike paths are clear and be able to ride again. So very fortunate here. But in the gray states where there's just gray for 3 months, that was really hard on me, coming from Colorado, being a native. Any guys, thanks for chiming in though. Starting off with a thought on that. And yes, we are in fall, really. So, I mean, the mornings are definitely chilly here too. But on the flip side, if you want to look at a glass half full, is our cycling community down south, like South America, Australia, New Zealand. They are just now thawing out and warming up and getting their season kicked off. So awesome to see their stuff getting ramped and rolling here. All right, we got a Precision e-bike, Josh. This is my basically e-bike counterpart-ish, if you will, to the north of me, not far north, about 10 miles. He does focus on primarily e-bikes, and he's been doing it for numerous years. So he is a very consistent contributor to these Shop Talk Tuesdays, and thanks for coming and joining in and shouting out. And again, if anybody's in the cycling realm and working with e-bikes and so forth, or you're in cycling and you're like thinking about upgrades or whatever and that kind of thing, Josh is a good person, a good resource to contact. Really good guy, very personable. So thanks for jumping in. All right, I've got Brett 6489. Thank you for joining in. Oh, Olympia, Seattle area is cooling off, still riding. You know, the funny thing about Seattle, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I've been there several times for trips and so forth, for, you know, visiting family and what have you. And I've noticed even in the dead of winter, well, for me, it's really green. So it was really like nice to come from brown or snowy Colorado to a green city, and it smelled like spring to me in January. But there's a very hardcore cycling community there. They ride in the rain, they ride all the time. It's just, even though the seasons change, but for them it's a less of variance, the extreme. So they keep going. Same thing with Portland, Oregon. So that's where Portland's a little bit closer to Olympia, if I believe, and that's it's not the state capital, is it? In any case, anyway, yes, a little bit cooler down there. Thanks for chiming in. All righty, Johnny, the bike guy, SLC. Hey, thanks for chiming in. Oh, you do skis and snowboard tuning? A lot of shops. I mean, there's some shops still here that do that. We used to do that in Park Bikes days. We'd shift gears and go into ski and snowboard rentals and tune-ups and that kind of thing. So that really did help when we did that. And we did that for a good chunk of the Parker Bikes scene in the 90s. But it was definitely significant. The bummer on that is when you have the crossover from ski season still going pretty strong and your kids are still have ski club, and then you have a warm spring, which for us now, climate changing ish is open that up a little bit more. But it used to, like in March, if you had a really warm March, it was brutal. I mean, it's like the season hit hard and fast from both parts of it. So because, you know, all the bike stuff is stored away and you got all the ski stuff piled everywhere and you're like, where the hell is that damn derailleur? I can't find that thing. Anyway, any case, but yeah, thanks for chiming in. Oh yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Oh yeah, in Seattle, you guys got some horrific news of late, which is very kind of interesting to see in perspective. And we'll talk about that, or if I have time, we'll get into that a little bit. And then talking about the big A word. But anyway, here we go. And again, if you just joined us, this is Shop Talk Tuesday, and feel free to throw some chats in the chat. If you're watching this on replays, please keep the conversation going with the community below. And if you like content like this and like the podcast style and that kind of thing, please like and subscribe. I'm just always trying to build our community, and it really kind of helps to see that subscriber base increase. Well, here we go. So to the days of our lives. No, didn't count right. No, hold on. I gotta warm up. Hold on here. It was brought to you by Medem Bikes, where you can find bicycles that won't break the bank. Great brands like Univega and Vin Diesel, but give you a good quality, safe ride to be able to do those extended rides and get into cycling. You'll find a link below with added savings to extend that adventure starting now. Well, that was my first faux pas. Anyway, welcome to Shop Talk Tuesday. So, as the wheel turns, so do the days of our rides. And this is the top 3 of the story that I've been seeing in the local cycling circles. And it's one of those situations where we're always hoping for the best, expecting for the worst. And that's always been the cycling industry in itself. But in today's day and age of the crazy chaos on the day-to-day, hour-to-hour moments, we are affected by it. Therefore, regardless of how you feel, left, right, or center, hopefully this is a safe space to try to keep it centered, mostly if possible, but we cannot not talk about certain things that are affecting the actual industry. So hopefully I do not offend anyone. I really hope to be more neutral in a sense, but I do have my opinions, and this is an opinion piece and my perspective of working in shops for 35 years, and hopefully keep the conversation going, and that you can either talk about it with your riding buddies or what you might be seeing down the line within the cycling community, in addition to bike shops and protecting us, either bike shops, small or independent bike shops, as well as mechanics alike. In any case, the top one that just launched this morning from bicycle retailer was Shimano reports decline operation income despite sales growth. And this is interesting. And I'm going to pull up the visual on this because it is definitely something we can really see what's happening of the state of the state. And let's get this going here. So on Brain on the web, Brain is the short version of bicycle retailer and industry news. And this news circulation has been around for decades. A lot of bike shops in the 90s and even before then relied on this to get their general information about the cycling industry. Now it's on the internet. There is a paper copy still available, which ironically I still get, being affiliated and also a bike shop, but it adds a little extra articles and so forth. But looking at the Shimano bike sales are up by % by the third quarter, and I believe this is a cumulative through the year. They're still down. Well, they were down from last year month to date. So from a deficit of 27%, looking at only a 5% increase, it's not You're not gaining a lot of ground, but it is a positive marker. Why I really want to talk about this, and what intrigues me in my perspective is, well, we got inflamed. That's probably the best way to put it. Inflamed market, really agitated US market, which was a huge market for a lot of these companies. And Shimano, if you don't know, they're based out of Japan. And they do have factories in various other countries, and they are one of the largest suppliers of parts and have been for decades. They're known for the high-end road and mountain and so forth. And we'll get a little bit of the componentry bit here in a second, but looking at the numbers, it's interesting. They do fold in their Shimano fishing division, which, if you don't know, they make one hell of a great fishing reel. I don't think they do a fly reel, but just your standard reels and also deep sea fishing reels. I believe they have those. I've got my hands on a few of those when I worked at a sporting goods store, and it was kind of interesting. We got misshipped some deep sea fishing reels once, and we're in Colorado, which we're landlocked, so we had to like transfer those to the California stores. But in any case, really cool, nice stuff. But in any case, back to the actual story here. Obviously all industries are suffering at this point, especially in the States here, and also a downturn of economics and interest of doing anything other than not spending money. We're all kind of struggling through and looking at Shimano, and why is Shimano a good benchmark, if you will. Yeah, they have a little bit of increase, but they have done some pretty aggressive changes, and hopefully I want to see if this pops up. Yes, it does. Okay. So looking at the month or year-to-year chart on this is pretty important to see. And a lot of us kind of seen this, like we've seen from 10 years back, 14, we pretty stagnant, nothing major. There's a little bit of pop. I think that was probably where the e-bikes started kicking a little bit and gravel became a thing. And we all know about the COVID smash. And now we're basically smashed down in 2023. And it's hard to believe that was 3 years ago. I mean, it feels like yesterday to some perspectives, and it feels like 10 years ago, because it just keeps on going and going and going. And a lot of us in the industry have done a lot of changes, as well as, yes, you guessed it, they're doing a lot of cutbacks. They're basically streamlining their company. There's several different articles in Brain. You can just, in the search, just hit Shimano, and you can read up on all the changes that the company has done in the last 3 years. Pretty aggressive, like altering their companies from layoffs to various other aspects of streamlining the company. And you look at how the trend here for their operational income is going down, down, down. So they're trying to make it more lean so they gain more of a profit. Although the sales are, I would say, pretty close to flatline-ish, and very small percentage. And the other outlier here is the, is it the gray part? The net income attributable to owners and of parents. So that's really cut down. What does that mean, right? They're making more efficient, leveraging what they have and so forth, but they're able to maintain this increase. Well, what is that increase until? I mean, they make bike parts, right? And bike parts, when you see a huge influx, it's usually something maybe got released that's new, everybody needed, or there's a higher demand. A lot of bike companies like Shimano will release something new because it's new to help bolster numbers and excitement in cycling. And it's kind of like a trickle effect, they hope. And when you're looking at Shimano as well, a lot of their orders are pre-bookings from months and months in advance, because brands like Trek, Specialized, Canyon, all those that carry Specialized on their lines, they really have to think about what's going to go on that particular bike design months in advance before even production runs. So they're going to the bartering table and seeing, like, how many X amount of these can we put on these models? Can you, provide those in a set X date? So the manufacturers, where it's a whole different scenario, is assembling the bikes with the frames either made at that particular manufacturer or made somewhere else and shipped in. So we talked about this before, and I do implore you to listen to other podcasts that we talked about that, especially the ones with John Bradley, talking about the complicities of the bike itself. And if you're in the cycling industry, you know how complicated things can get and squirrely. But looking at Shimano being one of the leaders, not the only ones, SRAM has really been a big competitor push. So they are really bucking up against Shimano's leadership, but they've been around a long time and they are steady. I mean, they don't do aggressive anything. It's very thought out and worked through because they've learned through their mistakes, hopefully for the most part, for releasing product too soon without testing, because it is a colossal nightmare as a mechanic getting a product that's been shipped out or released too soon without bugs being kind of worked through and that kind of thing, where you get these other kind of statements, and they've had issues, granted, but the worst one I experienced when they decided to do a triple design on a Dura-Ace, where obviously nobody in the racing circuits were riding triple Dura-Ace. So it wasn't tested there, and it got open to market, and there was a design flaw, I believe, or at least it felt like it when we got our brand new Treks in, that the speccing wasn't just right on. And quite honestly, that first batch of Dura-Ace high-end bikes people were excited about for a triple, and all of a sudden, as a bike mechanic, you're trying to tell the customer that, yeah, your fancy new very expensive bike doesn't ship very cleanly. We found a workaround that. It was very troublesome, but once we got that figured out, unfortunately, social media wasn't as big as it is now. So a lot of those things are not shared in the mechanic forums that we all kind of sit in on to help those customers through it. And so we relied back then on the company fessing up to the issue and then relying or sending out memos saying we need to adjust it or do it this. That one was interesting because all you had to do is a different cable route, not what it was designed for, through the anchor bolt, and somehow it shifted a little bit better in any case, just because of that specific geometry. That's what was making it hung up on. Well, in any case, talking about Shimano and their increase, it's pretty good. And they have a couple things, as you probably see in the advertisement here, Di2 on GRX. And then they have, I think, a battery individual on a couple of their models. I saw in the shop the newer XTs. And I mean, granted, it's still on a $6,000 bike, which is pretty expensive, but having a Di2 system on a full suspension, it looked pretty slick. And they are they're trying to work around what SRAM beat them as the individual units having their own power source. But talking to some shops of late, that the latest Di2 push is good. That's going to help bolster their numbers. And, they are a traded company, so it'll help with their stock and stuff, I believe. And in addition to the new Qs that was released, which is kind of the silent winner for a lot of bike people, because you can get that wider range. And I do have a bike in the shop right now, a Trek FX. It's a year old with Qs on it and worked on it. It's, the shifter the derailleur, it seems a little weak, as in kind of a lot of flex there, but it still shifts really well and it hits that range. And rumor has it they're going to be adding Di2 to that as well, which is going to be a trickle down tech from their upper stuff down to basically, believe it or not, it's still expensive, but it's their lower line componentry. Therefore, you can get nicer componentry on those bikes at around $2,000. I'm assuming they're probably going to be landing at, and therefore it gets it into the reach of the rest of the cycling market. Because if you really think about it, the cycling market is not just the high-end Trek, Specialized, Giant, and Canyon, and various others, because they would like to think they are, but they know they're not. It's kind of like I mentioned this before. It's kind of like the brewery, like beer. The biggest person or biggest entity in the room is Budweiser, and everybody else is fighting over the other 8 to 10%. That is the cycling industry. When you're looking at Wal-Mart and Target, the department store brands, those are the ones that have the most mass volume of units, but not necessarily the highest dollar, obviously, because when you're looking at selling $10,000 bikes versus a $300 bike on a Walmart floor, that's a little bit of different discrepancy. But looking at how I see this with Shimano releasing some newer componentry coming up in the next year, that's more price point, not just the top end, more price point, warm hug-ish, is really going to help them, hopefully push those numbers to be a little bit further up. And this is something that we want Shimano to be, strong and healthy to some level, because they provide a good chunk of the componentry. And granted, they've had some issues, of course, but you definitely want the company to stick around so you don't have any recall issues of like all of a sudden the company's gone, you don't have your stuff taken care of. So, and they've always, them and Campanoli back in the 90s for road stuff, it was always neck and neck. And now we have the SRAM component. And also they have the lower end, which they're probably addressing with the Qs and so forth with Microshift. Microshift has made a huge impact in the cycling market. And you would find those components on some brands, a lower end, like lower end gravel or road that are $1,500 to $2,000. And you're like, Microshift on that? Because as mechanics before that, Microshift, all we saw was replacement parts. Like, oh, okay, here's a 9-speed shifter set that would fit your old Ultegra componentry, and there's nothing new. So as a bike mechanic, we never looked at, in the shop, we were just kind of conditioned just to look for new to go on there, and never looked at used. But now the used market has completely become hugely accessible, and a lot of shops, as well as myself, is leveraging that to drive an income. So as good refurbished parts, and the cost of a good refurbished part that's been inspected and works, that actually matches the componentry, even though it's 20 years old, might be actually cheaper than the new Microshift counterpart that might be coming in because of all the extra costs of bringing it into the United States. So any case, there's a lot of interesting parts of that. Other part of that piece too is they did reference the United States market being a little flat and down and not that great. Case in point, if you're living underneath a rock, we're having some serious issues here, and trying to get in products into the United States is very troublesome for United States companies, as well as companies outside the United States that do sell to United States consumers. So there's a huge disruption there. So they did mention a lot of that increase or leverage is other markets, and the European market is actually, they're huge in cycling. And you're from Europe and chiming in on this, it's huge on cycling. I have quite a few people from the Europe market that do chime in my channel, either through this show or as well as comments. So looking at that, it's just kind of crazy. And there was a side note of, I think it was Merida and Giant released down as well in September. That is not a shocker. A lot of these companies are working hard to offset the disruptions in addition to other disruptions that we may have been not even foreseen or even guessed it would have been. It's kind of like, whoa, where did this come from? And it's just, it makes it really difficult for those big companies to forecast, to adjust, and move forward for the next model year or two. Because, if you look at the big brands like Trek, Specialized, Giant, all those, they're looking at getting looking to get bikes in production in 90 or not 90. It's more like 9 months to 12 months. So a year out before they would think that particular model may hit the showroom floor. Well, what's the market? Is there going to be a market for that hitting the showroom floor in a year from now? And is it the right stuff? It's, the crystal ball is broken, and there's there's nothing that they can really, they're just really relying on safe products. So more narrow and deep on the products that they're going to, especially going into the United States, that they know they sell. Maybe a certain couple kids bikes, and they'll narrow that down. They'll narrow down some models, which probably needed to be done anyway, as case in point, when Trek basically said about 2 years now, like, we're going to cut 40% of our SKUs. We got too much stuff. We got to reduce that. Working at Trek stores as an inventory manager, yes, they did. I mean, trying to keep track of all that. And as an independent bike dealer, it made it very challenging to keep those brands happy when they had so much to sell with so many categories. You had to have a certain X dollar or unit amount to appease. So in any case, looking at the bigger stores, independent bike dealers, they've had those challenges too. But in any case, thanks again for chiming in on Shop Talk Tuesday. And I forgot to put a timestamp. I need to do that. So yeah, Shop Talk Tuesday, where we're here to talk about bike stuff, and mostly, first part is industry stuff, and then if there's time, we'll talk about some questions that I do get through my portals. And I want to do a little small segment, which I'll definitely do, is I'm going to feature a shop. One of you viewers that chimed in, and I looked you up. Gonna steamroll you on my channel, and it's good stuff. It's positive stuff. It's not that I'm here to roast any of my counterparts in my realm, but anyways, there's a lot of other shops out there, as well as Precision e-bike. Josh there, I have a video of my library on YouTube, so check him out. Check out that video. Cool little shop, very good insights and so forth. All right, without further ado, let's dive into the next topic. But before that, shop on Amazon. I do have a Amazon store, like the latest pick, basically, of products that are on sale, that kind of thing, and various other parts and tools and so forth that I suggest using within those particular categories. Check that out. Go through, and even if you don't buy the product that I suggest and you find something else that fits your needs better, or your grocery list, or whatever you end up buying, I get a little kick. So that's a good opportunity for you to get something, and I get something that helps support me doing what I'm doing. All right, on to the next topic. We'll talk about that a little later. I did not put it anywhere in the description and so forth, but it is something we want to talk about. In any case, diving into the next piece is we're looking at an interesting move here, and it's from Trek. And Trek has been obviously been around since the 70s, and they've had some pretty large successes within an industry, of course, to be where they are today. And I worked in Trek dealers for a good chunk of time. But this one was very intriguing to me, and it's basically based off of their race team, and primarily road. And Lidl, I think I'm saying it right, is it's a German European company that sponsors their team. And why am I bringing this up? Because they are acquiring majority of the Trek Lidl team. And what that is meaning is this particular investment company. I'm not sure what the actual company itself, and this goes back to a lot of brand deals with Tour de France teams and so forth. A lot of them are not teams that are named after specific bike brands. For the most part, a lot of it's other investment. Other companies see an opportunity to get their branding out there and marketing, or they just really love cycling, whatever the case may be. But Trek has had really good success with this over the years. And why I bring this up is, well, we know the Lance Armstrong era, right? The USPS team. But before that, there was one of the legends of Greg LeMond. And Greg LeMond actually brought road cycling to United States in the sense of we actually finally won as an American cyclist on one of the biggest platforms. Even then, in the 80s, was a big stage and was recognized. Before that, the U.S. riders were just kind of dismissed. And as I remember, and as well as my buddy John has remembered, but he's the one that actually put like, we can do it. We can do it. And then all of a sudden, we're in the mountain bike rage of the 90s with flattening out, and hybrid boom was kind of getting soft. Lo and behold, we had this guy, Lance Armstrong, on a weird team. I mean, to me, in my head, USPS, United States Postal Service, as a team would just be kind of bizarre to me. Because, you know, it's like, is that a company? Apparently it is. They have marketing, whatever the case. But they blew the doors off of the whole road scene. Well, regardless of how you feel about the turnouts over decades later of Lance and USPS and everything else in between, you can't deny the fact that got a huge insurgent for road cycling. I mean, massive. We were selling road bikes again. We were selling road bike conversions to triples here in Colorado because people wanted to ride in the hills and the mountains. It was huge. And they've had a huge success with USPS. Then they had a pretty good success with Discovery Channel. And then the last one, the Lance Arms area, was, he may have forgot, his Radio Shack. And Radio Shack really kind of makes me chuckle because, you know, everybody, if you were alive in the 80s, would go in the mall and there would sure enough be a Radio Shack there. And watching Stranger Things again with my daughter recently, and they had a Radio Shack on season, I think 3. It just kind of, you know, it's super funny. But and when I worked in Fort Collins, it was like one of the last Radio Shacks. It was in the same parking lot where I was working at before they went under. And it's kind of like, did the U.S. or did the Lance Armstrong road team ditch effort to try to get their name out there before they went under? Killed them? Huh. Well, brands have done that quite a few times. Sports Authority is one locally. It's kind of why I mention that is because it, you know, a company invests a lot of money, and there's a lot of, it's not like, oh, we'll put a little more money into this. I mean, look at all these people, and all these people have to have a salary, you know, from the mechanics, from the people that prep the food, the people that actually race, the talent that they have to scout out, and all the equipment that goes with it, and the bus and the plane tickets and all. I mean, it's a huge ticket. It's very expensive. And Trek has been, you know, trying to cultivate this winning team again because they had such success with it with the Lance Armstrong. You know, they're not going to let it go completely. It's something that they're going to keep a pulse on, and hopefully will be able to, you know, land on black again with the roulette wheel, or do the hit the green 00. If you know anything about gambling, that's like very, you know, rare. But they had such a huge success with that, and it carried for years and really pushed their brand forward, where they're always going to have, you know, keep that as part of their culture as long as they can, as long as they can afford it. Here's the forwarding question, in my perspective, looking at this company taking most of the costs of ownership of this particular team. I mean, I don't think any cycling company right now is super healthy and fat right now. If they are, they've been dipping into their piggy banks for the last 2 years, just trying to keep things going and afloat. Well, when you talk on top of what we're experiencing now, this is twofold for them, because if they're investing more into the, you know, international race team, which opens up more branding for other markets to help them offset the lack or loss of United States sales into Europe and various others, is something that a lot of companies are going to dive into. So that's the leading point of my perspective on this one. Is like, yeah. And they started the team up and they're like, hey, somebody, I mean, you have more money than we do. So let's have you, we'll be in a partnership, but now you have more of a marketing perspective, or basically hopefully return on their particular with this company here. So any case, interesting read. this is a snapshot. I think I have a link below under the description too, so you can read on your own time and formulate your own opinion. But I don't think this is, instead of like 3 years ago, for example, Specialized decided to cut everything for the most to the bone, like all the social media people and all that. And a lot of companies have already done that. So, that's not new, but they still did keep team commitments, and you're still seeing Trek and Specialized and Canyon on a lot of the teams in the big pro racing circuit. Well, I mean, a lot of people, the reason why like, well, who cares? It's like the 2% or the 1% of the cycling people that purchase anything. Well, it's a big deal, and that's where they are able to sell the $10,000, the $15,000, the $20,000 bikes in those particular markets, because a younger individual, way younger than me, that might be in the racing, that wants that newer XTR componentry or that newer design suspension or whatever the case, they may have the lucrative income to do that because they want to invest in that, or doctors and lawyers want to, they have the income to be able to get the nicest thing. Sure, there is a market for that. But that is a very small market. But it's also enthusiasts that go down the line, right? It's like Tour de France is shown here. It's on Peacock for the last few years. You can watch it. It's tangible. Back in the 90s, you couldn't really watch it. You just read about it, that kind of thing. But now it's definitely a marketing piece. And you'll see in a lot of these races, they're pointing to the brand when they cross in the finish line, or even the stage. It's not like the whole race. As long as they get some representation of their team affiliates to keep them going is, the thing. So that helps, bolster and get people excited about cycling and so forth. Will we see another big headliner? I mean, we're seeing a little bit of that right now, multiple wins. But then again, I'm a bike mechanic. I have my community. I take care of them. I don't really watch the cycling circuits, top elites race and all the stages and so forth. Sure, I'll catch maybe like a third of the Tour de France on replay. But other than that, though, I'm back in my garage taking care of, lesser expensive bikes compared to those. And, there's some people in my community that are really kind of like swayed by that, like, oh, I want a nicer, newer thing, which is fine. But realistically, majority of most bike shops are, for the most part, catering to the middle pack area. And none of us really do we really need the super high end? It's like driving around in your neighborhood on a, Daytona 500 race car. I mean, it's complicated. It's very specific and so forth. It's nice stuff, sure. But as a practical, adjustment use and all that thing, that's where we have to sometimes, I wouldn't say talk down, but kind of, realistic perspective is like, so what kind of riding you're doing? You're just doing bike path riding. No, you don't need the latest top of line S-Works tarmac. I mean, it's just, you don't need that. Maybe you need something a little more comfort. Maybe that's light, but then again, if they want it, they're going to get it. And those companies will be more than happy to provide those particular pieces. But why I bring this up is, again, it's a shift in one company that's trying to offload some expenses, as you just saw with Shimano adjusting their bottom line, cost running expenses and that kind of thing, which has pretty much become already the trending message for the last 3 years. Nobody wants to blow up their marketing department and add 20 more people. They're going to leverage AI and get rid of a couple people, because employees are expensive. And as a company, that's one of your largest expense. And if you can trim that and still maintain profit business-wise, they're going to be a little bit healthier throughout. So there alludes, that's what we're seeing. And we just saw big news of today, and we'll get into that here in a moment, and how that maybe will affect bike industry in a whole self. But I should jump in the chat here and see who's joined us. All right. Heavy Metal Cycles, thank you. Is Shimano embracing e-bikes, or at least components for e-bikes? Yes, to my knowledge, they actually had an e-bike motor for a while. I don't know if they're still making it or not, but for a while they had a Shimano e-bike motor and battery. Then I heard they got rid of it. I don't know if they got back into it. Josh is the one at his Precision e-bike can enlighten me on that. But as componentry goes, they were making a little beefier componentry in general, depending, it didn't matter what brand it was, to help cut down the wear of the torque on the drivetrain, because even though you're supposed to shift your gears, a lot of people don't, and they burn out certain gears in the chain and so forth. They're not distributing that load because you're adding a lot more torque. Connex chains, for example, they're made by Wimperman, a German manufacturer of chains. They do have an e-bike chain line with different lengths to accommodate longer drivetrains for those e-bikes. So, and there's other, I think there's other chain manufacturers. Just for example, more beefier derailleurs, cassettes. What's the torque? It's like your big chain ring, your derailleur, cassettes, the jockey pull is in a derailleur, and the chain. The chain usually takes the most abuse of all drivetrains. So therefore, if that is beefed up, that's going to hold up. As in Shimano chains themselves, I haven't looked at their whole laundry list of chains. I just don't do that. I don't have the aspiration of studying every chain model anymore, as it got way deep and too many. But I'm sure they probably have a more durable chain for e-bike drivetrains and cassettes and so forth. And they absolutely are in it, as well as that's the only part of the market that seems to be growing. And here in Colorado, there still is a rebate of over $400, I believe, for an e-bike to the beginning of the year. Then it cuts down to, there still is going to be one, but it knocks down to 200 something, I think, at the beginning of the year. So now it's just in my neck of the woods. So a lot of different markets, states, countries may have various programs which help offset the cost of the e-bike, to encourage people to do more lower emission, basically to really help them out, try to, like, their carbon footprint is zero carbon footprint. That's what I was trying to say. In any case, it's, they're going to be going forward. Although a lot of those inexpensive ones that you're buying off of online from either Temu or AliExpress or whoever else may not have replaceable parts that are available, but are very specific to that particular design of bike, as well as other safety issues, where that's one of those things that if you're getting more reputable brand, with support, it's going to help you in the long run, for sure, because we want to make those bikes sustainable and used for a long period of time, so they don't end up in a landfill, not like a disposable bike. So in any case, good question though. Great comment on that, for sure. And if I believe Heavy Metal Cycles, you're up in north of us in the land of Canada. Our Canadian friends. I mean, we still think that generally, regardless what happened. We're not going to talk about that, but we know. As old as I am, everybody knows the Reagan era. So, that's enough said on that. Thanks for chiming in there, Johnny, the bike guy from Salt Lake City. Oh yeah, the Ozark Trails. That's an interesting one. The Ozark Trails you mentioned on the Shimano selling. The first Ozark Trails that I saw for the gravel bike specific, we had the Microshift, I think, was on it, and maybe some other bizarro brand that they made. But those are made overseas, but they are contracted through another company in the States, ironically, that builds a whole bunch of mass bikes. And it's all about numbers. Scott, thank you for chiming in. Good morning. To you too. And thanks for the kind words. And it was chilly this morning walking the dog. Very, very chilly. 30s Fahrenheit here. So, frost. It's about time to blow out those sprinklers, which is a sad moment because you just kind of let go of summer at that point. Oh, you miss Radio Shack. It was always fun to walk in and see all these little gadgets. I think I bought a little stereo from our car at one point and threw it in back in the day. Punk rock days. I probably blew out speakers too, I'm sure. Yeah. All righty. Let's see here. Tops Vintage, thank you for joining in. Thanks for saying hi in the chat. Greg, new to the channel. Well, welcome. Hopefully you'll find enjoyable here and entertaining watching an old guy in the garage talk about just stuff, bike stuff on top of stuff. So do you think $300 is a fair price for a 2001 Trek 5200 carbon fiber bike with a carbon fiber handlebars? Ooh, it must have been an upgrade. And with Shimano Ultegra set. Yes, actually. I've been within my particular market here. I'm not sure where you're at, but in the Colorado market in the Front Range, I've been seeing a lot of carbon bikes. They used to be in the used market around $700 to $800 for a decent one. Since the market has slowed so much here in the used market, that we're seeing some good quality ones are still not been used very much or been well maintained in the $300 to $500 range. So yes, and the Ultegra componentry on that, either a double or a triple, is the 9-speed. They made that componentry roughly about 7 to 8 years, and that was workhorse componentry. The stuff was meant to last, and we've had huge successes in the cycling market if we know what we're doing to revive those shifters. Usually the shifters are usually the Achilles heel on those, only because of the stuff inside that Shimano put in there originally is the grease, like fluorescent green grease will harden and cause those pawls to get sticky. One trick was just flushing out with extremely hot water. It really just kind of blows out all that gunk and the shifters come back to life. My trick is I have ultrasonic cleaner, so I spray a little bit of brake cleaner or carb cleaner inside there and cycle through if I can get it to cycle through. And then I put an ultrasonic cleaner with water with about, I'd say 10% simple green at temperature of 50 Celsius. Cook it for about, I don't cook it very long, about 3 to 5 minutes. And then I flush it out with hot water. And I've had about 95% success rate of getting those shifters back to life on doing that. A local shop here was using, they would soak the shifter in kind of like, what was it? The citrus degreaser. Inside the internals, they would spray it inside there and let it soak a little bit, then flush it out. And that helped out without using the ultrasonic cleaner. But in any case, there's several different ways of flushing those shifters out in different processes. With ultrasonic cleaner, though, you need to be careful, though, because if it's too hot for too long, it'll take off that plastic finish off the shifter levers themselves. So that's the thing. And also the dust cap covers, with the logoing and all that, which is not any function. But you definitely want to sustain those. And so that's why I'm always light and polite, do for 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And if you get it to work with minimal amount of time in ultrasonic cleaner, and that's with any parts of getting it clean, that's the best practice there. But yes, that is opportunity. But for the carbon fiber, those frames were built pretty stout. Definitely inspect it, make sure there's no cracks or damage or impacts or any of that kind of thing. And the componentry on it is good. Although the carbon bars, that would have had to been possibly an upgrade at a later time. But I would check the other costs on those bikes would be the wheels. The wheels they were using the pair-spoked wheels from Bontrager, and those had a high tendency of cracking on the rim, on the drive side spokes, on the rear wheel. So case in point, $300 for the bike, pretty good solid. You can get that out of it if you just had to part it out. And that's if the frame is in good shape and frame and fork. The wheels, if you need to get a set, there's like $100. or so for used out there. I do have a source for new. It's called a Bicycle Wheel Warehouse. It's in the description below. They hand build wheels still out of California for a good portion of their stock, not all, but a good portion. And you can really get that rim brake, Ultegra, or whatever hub they have available. And you can get that bike up to snuff and ready to go. And actually would probably, well, mechanically, it's mechanically sound if you get it, everything adjusted right, but it's also accessible. In other words, no internal routing from those bikes. It's easy to work on, or easier to work on, and it's accessible for consumers to work on versus special, like a whole bunch of specialty tools and all that, like the newer ones. And you can get those bikes to be pretty light compared, and the ride quality, I would really say, is very comparable. Although the other ones, the newer ones, are going to have a lot of Kool-Aid with those, and they do have some nice things to them. But for the average cyclist, don't need it. So upcycling those old 5200s, which was a really good stable bike, as long as you get it to fit correctly, like the seat and the bars and all that fit you and stem length, it's a great bike. And I have a couple customers riding on theirs, and they love them. I mean, they're like solid. They're solid. That's why you still see a lot of them around. If it has, for example, the postal sticker on it, and they're selling it for $300. That postal sticker is very, very eye candy for resale. It's just a side note on that, because you can sell those pretty easily for sure. Does CS4-7-Q9R does AI buy or ride bicycles? Not yet. But you get, I've seen some of those robots that have been building in the Asian market. Pretty damn close. If they get them on a bike. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Josh, for chiming in about the e-bike question on Componentry. Shimano Steps is the model there. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. All right. Oh, heavy metal cycles. You're in Austin, Texas. That's right. I was getting confused with another shop up north, which is probably listening in. And I appreciate you all in bike shops are having me playing in the background. I really cut back on, or try to stop any of the profanity, so it's safe to listen to it without alienating any customers that might be on the floor or yourself. Try to keep it more PC in that perspective. There's enough rant and rage we do all in the back of the shop, just tossing junk and smashing old wheels or whatever. All been there. Yeah. All right. Oh, you're Tops Vintage. You're in Florida. Nice. Your season's about ready to kick up. I just had a call with a buddy down there at Vital Chains. And they do chain waxing, and he's down in Florida. He says it's finally getting cool enough to ride, not too hot, which is kind of a bizarre concept for me being in Colorado. Thanks for the tricks on the shifters and the rim. Oh, the rims are Rolf. That's a good chance they're better. They beefed up the Rolf rims a little bit better on those. The comps and the pros, not to say they didn't have issues, but they definitely had issues on the Bontrager pair. Double check the rim bed on those, make sure they're not worn down, that kind of thing. But although, I mean, they're not those Rolfs were not the lightest either. So if you were going to upgrade that to be more, I would not say a period piece bike, but more of like lighter weight and efficient, and with the newer bells and whistles, most of us in the cycling community will say upgrade your wheels, because if you reduce the rotational weight, that usually helps, or at least mentally makes you think helps you ride better. It's all about the motor and the less you're carrying. Me, I need to be on a diet like years ago, and I stopped. So the most weight loss on my bike would be me. So the less me power, more me power, and less of me would definitely make my bike perform a lot better. But in any case, but the Rolf wheels, I've been riding on a few sets of those over the years, and I have a backup set. Looked like they were. I was in a bike that I was going to sell and part out, but the rim looked like the rim was fixed, like rebent back. Not comfortable selling them, but for me to ride them because I'll be looking and, you know, making sure they're good. But in case, that's me. Joe O'Channel, thank you for chiming in. He's one of the individuals up north and one of our friends from Canada. Hi, hope you're doing good. Hope you're not as cold. Yeah, we're hanging out, just getting through the day. Get through the day. All right. Let's do the next little inserts here and see what I need to be doing. A whole bunch of bike stuff, and you just need to get rid of it. You know, no longer needs to be in your garage, needs to be in somebody else's garage, and actually, hey, maybe being used. Go to bikeflights.com. You can actually open an account yourself, or just put in a one-time usage, put in the destination, so forth, the bike size, dimensions, and weight. Don't forget the weight. And add that insurance, because you'll definitely want to make sure that insurance is covered if something happens in that UPS or FedEx or whatever transfer going to that next destination. You want to be protected. Then you just have to drop it off at your local UPS store and be able to get it on its way. And again, I have shipped bikes, parts, wheels, and frames for decades now. And Bike Flights is sure enough one of the best directions to go. All right, this time of year, everybody's trying to dump all their race stuff, so it's a good opportunity to buy some lightly used, sometimes backup bikes and stuff, because everybody's looking for their new product coming in and being circulated in January. So this is the time. Also here in Colorado, there's what they call a Velo Swap. It's been around for like 30 some years. And they had to shut down a couple of years because of COVID or what have you. But that's in downtown Denver where they have, not downtown, but close to it. That's where a lot of reps would dump all their stuff. Like, you know, they're lightly used, if not demo bikes and products and whatever they had to buy from the manufacturer. Because for bike reps, like Bob, the bike rep here, he had to buy all his own samples, and they're now allowed to sell them back in the day. Like online, so they go to Velo Swap to dump it. Various other companies like Primal for clothing and all that will go to places like Velo Swap to just kind of clear out the odds and ends and just kind of get a push in front of it. It's a one-day event kind of thing. So, but then again, that's where it kind of relates to, you know, people shipping bikes and so forth, and not just bikes, but wheels and wheels, frames, and forks is what I use Bike Flights for, to move my product across the United States with a lot cheaper pricing for sure. Any case, diving into the next topic, or second to last topic, I'm going to sneak in the last topic, which I didn't put in any description, so we'll talk about that. But it is definitely, hey, everybody's seen the headlines today. But this one's going back to Syntace. Syntace is a parts distributor builder in Europe. And we've seen it here. We've seen some bars. They get into the United States, some wheels, that kind of thing. And they are, why I bring this up is they're a company that's in Germany. I believe they're a German company, or manufacture their stuff in Germany, or company, and they have it manufactured in other places. And I'm sure one of you or two of you have seen either their stems, C-posts, wheels for sure, handlebars and so forth. But they're in troublesome hot water. We're in the United States not the only ones having issues. There's been, you know, European market has been having some serious issues, and there's been a couple of companies that have fallen to the wayside. Brands have been bought up, that kind of thing. Yeah, I remember more of the wheels and the handlebars kind of thing. So they do a spectrum of parts, and from, as you can see, wheels, cockpit, seat posts, pedals, and various other things. So the reason why I put this out or want to talk about this is because this is one of many companies that are having some troubling times. And there is an article under And I think Pink Bike, as well as somewhere else, that brought this to light, where they're gone back to investors to kind of help streamline things, a last-ditch effort to keep the company going. Well, you're seeing a lot of things that are sold out. That's not really that great. So have they been in trouble for a long time? Not sure, because I'm not really keeping a total pulse on the European brands, but I didn't notice that before. Everything's sold out. So yeah, they may have flooded out everything, and now there's like, oh, are we going to be able to get more product built? Are we gonna we ran out of money? There's nothing left. See if they have anything still in stock. Yeah, this is weird. Okay, but yeah, I mean, that's where we just saw was it CCS, the carbon rim white label company in the United States. They just went bellied up out of nowhere. This is what you see when you see a company about ready to hit the fan. Is like inventory is gone. They're not being spec'd on brands. Brands are falling to the wayside. Can they be saved? Is it a strong enough name for another company to come buy them? All those things are at play. Their investors, are they done to just throw in the towel because they just don't want to throw more money in something that's not going to be fruitful? Although there was one brand last week that I mentioned that the investment company purchased them, and they're hoping to expand a bigger market. That was I think a mountain bike gravel company out of England. So there's a lot of disruption when it comes down to it. And I feel sad for companies like this because they have staff and people that are excited about cycling, and they have sponsors and people, that race on ride and, sell their stuff. And even though it may not be a big headliner on the showroom floor for a bike shop, it is still detrimental when you have to fill. I mean, if you sold so many wheels or parts from this company, then you have to find a substitute, and maybe you have to open up another dealer, or the wholesalers. Like from here, in United States, we have JBI, QBP, and those, and all of a sudden those disappear. I think Melkoff had a big brand, rollover to specifically only being sold through QBP. Either who knows if they don't have enough products to support the others, or they just felt that QBP could be the bigger outlet for them for their inventory. Although I see a whole bunch of Melkoff stuff on Amazon. But in any case, and who's selling it through Amazon? A lot of companies that are leveraging the QBP bike brand, ship direct the company, or direct to consumer thing. So yeah, I want to just highlight this, and is a brand that I'm seen before, seen in shops I've worked at before, and it's one of those individual scenarios where it's tough, just to show how tough. And if you didn't make the right decisions to protect the company over a longer period of time, then you become also in those graph lines, like profitability and costs just come run ahead, and then you're done, and all of a sudden you don't have products to share and what have you. So any of you out there have had experience with that particular brand, please throw in the chat or the comments below. I've seen it on various bikes that I've just worked on. Not necessarily, I think there's one shop or two that had carried some of that, but I'm not sure if they bought it. I don't think they bought it directly from them. I think it was like a wholesaler in the States that was distributing their parts. But in any case, we're going to see a lot more brand disruption, and a lot more going to happen. It's just one of those scenarios. It's just so weird that everything that's been happening in the States to help promote the idea of bringing manufacturing back into the United States is just been so disruptive and painful for some companies that it's actually made them shut down production in the United States. It's like did the opposite of what it was supposed to hopefully help. So therefore, with that in mind, and that kind of craziness, disruption, and so forth, it's going to be detrimental to a lot of companies that are trying to navigate around to either sell into the United States or our United States company trying to work around those. And I feel especially bad for those companies in the cycling realm that basically they sell to only the United States market, really not a global market primarily. And they're having a hard time either getting product in or the prices have gone up. Yeah, I was in a store the other day to get some valves cores for a bike. I was doing some tubeless, a tubeless, a refresh. And one of the price tags, they're all around about $40, 38 something. And I was like, a little higher than I remember. And then I was looking through a color that I wanted, and I came across one that was like the older tag that was pre-tariff tag was 31. So it was like easily 20% markup on just even the smaller stuff. So that's being paid now, and it's affecting bike shops and the consumer. And yeah, you may not go through that many of those, but the next time you go get your Continental tires, it's going to be another $30, or $20 or $40 for a set. So for us in the United States, when you have a company that just does direct to, sell in the United States, mostly as their customer base, and they're smaller, it's going to be a little more difficult, for sure. Absolutely. It's just hard. And that being said, try to support those companies if you can. If you do buy from them or ride their bikes or what have you, or buy their parts, and even though they're in the United States and they have stuff being made here, they're sourcing materials. A good chunk of it is out in for materials or something. It's part of it, tooling, whatever. It is a barrier, and it doesn't make it really conducive to proceed. Yeah, and I've seen some in the chat, which is really kind of blows my mind. Like, well, with this, what's been going on, we have increased at least 30 or 50 more jobs in the manufacturing field and one company or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's great. But realistically, the loss for that was like 1,000 to 1. So you want to lose 1,000 jobs to claim one job that you've actually made. Case in point, we're in a very, very interesting struggle. And I'm going to dive into this next topic, and it's kind of not really bicycle specific, but it is a lot of bicycles in it. But this individual company is not related to that, but you'll get my gist here in a second. Guy Bicycles, hanging with a guy. Hey, I'm Justin, the guy in the garage. I do have a garage shop, and you see most of these tools behind me. I want to do a shout out to JensonUSA, which you'll find a link below if you're looking for some good pricing and as well tools to fit or to expand your actual shop at home. All righty. Oh, double check my phone. Kiddo hurt her foot, and she had a little foot boot thing on, and I want to make sure I'm not getting a call from the school. All right. So the big news today actually started last night. Something got leaked about Amazon laying off 30,000 people in corporate level, partially in the Seattle, possibly area. That's insane. And they have a statement. If you haven't heard, obviously, if you're busy working on bikes or going riding and you didn't hear about the news, which good for you to tune stuff out. And I'm sorry that I'm going to throw it in your face now, but the interesting part of admitting that 14,000 are going to get their pink slips for sure. And that's at the corporate level office, and they're directly relating it to development of AI can replace those positions. Whoa, can AI replace my bike mechanic skills? Probably not, but it has a big ripple effect. And of course, it's like, great, it's another company in the United States laying off a massive amount of higher paid, skilled positions where majority of these individuals paid for college, had pretty decent incomes. And if you're living in Seattle, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they most likely had all of them, if not most of all of them, had 3-figure incomes. When you take that big of a chunk, even just, let's say even half of that, they were talking about maybe reallocating positions and so forth and giving opportunities or whatever. That's basically trying to make it sound better than it is, what it is. But just say if it evens half of the ones that get pink slips out like 7,000 in any community, doesn't matter if it's a big metropolitan area, that's $700,000 of income wiped out of that. Going to the coffee shops, Starbucks is going to go under because of that. Going to groceries, going to everything else. It's just like, it's a huge, colossal monster of a problem of that deficit. Did they need to do it? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I'm not working at Amazon. I'm not, there seeing how much they've had too much of the department. But here's the key departments that are being let go is like marketing. That's a huge one. Reducing that and leveraging AI. I'm leveraging AI. I'm using it to make my stuff sound better, ideas, all those things. Of course, all these companies. And if you looked at my percentage, I don't need to hire somebody to do what that is. I get it. There's a good use case for that for small business for sure, because you can make a little streamline and get back some of your time so you can actually put it into things you really enjoy doing, instead of trying to figure out titles for your next email or titles for your next video or whatever the case may be. But it's not perfect, as my wife that's in the science fields, where it'll run something but it'll still need some tweaking. But can it completely replace some of these positions? Probably. But still there's going to need to be like AI oversight experts to kind of proofread or proof options, whatever they're trying to use the application for. But what this leads to is a whole bunch of people that knows how to, or been a part of, selling direct to consumer is now available on the market. So think about that. So you got individuals that are now available on the market that have extensive experience on a big global scale of selling direct to consumer. What companies in the cycling industry would probably be really interested to have those individuals be at least interviewed and maybe possibly fit into their mold of going forward, or at least bolster their direct to consumer sales? Well, Canyon, they're primarily a direct to consumer sale company from early mid 2000s. So there's one. And the latest ones that jumped on the bandwagon in the last few years, Specialized, Trek, Giant might want to get in the hat on that ring, or maybe some other brands. I mean, granted, they might be not the big comfy salary or something, but they're going to be walking into a flooded market where it's already hard. And they're going to most of them are be more than happy to probably just take a cut and pay, because there's no jobs available, to get a job for now, so it can at least pay some bills. And a lot of that work is remote, so they don't have to possibly move to Wisconsin or Taiwan. Maybe they want to, but they can still be leveraged. Their skill sets can be leveraged by other companies. That's the industry part bit. When I read through how many people that are laying off and what they do, and granted, it's about 10. They're like proposing, this is the second or the third big one from Amazon. And the reason why I talk about Amazon, I mean, not just because I'm part of the affiliate and that kind of thing, what have you, but that's mainly for the company or the products that they're selling and so forth. But as the company that's streamlining, all those successes for those companies, they're having a little bit of hardship. I mean, I'm sure their last couple of sales, rumor has it, didn't do so well, not as much as they're hoped for, and they're a company that's going to react to it. I mean, they have a downturn of money. They're going to react to it. They're going to cut, just like the top of the show, Shimano, streamlining their operations to a point to offset a better profit. Same thing here. When you're talking about six-figure incomes of 30,000 people, you do the math. That's a big dollar of, cutting down on that and putting that money into automation. I'm pretty sure you've seen the news articles about, robots are going to be pulling our orders and all that kind of thing and replacing the warehouse workers, which were the warehouse workers basically replaced the manufacturer line workers back in the early 2000s. So, we didn't lose those jobs. They just shifted to something else. And then that's going to be eliminated as well. So, yeah. And if you did put manufacturing back in the United States, it'd look a lot different than it would have 20 years ago. It's a lot less people, let's put it that way. So you're not bringing that many jobs back. So in any case, when you're looking at it as a whole and looking at a cut of AI, what it's been doing to a massive company like Amazon, all these other companies, which one news forecast show had like a laundry list of other companies that include Google, Meta, Intel. I mean, all these big have a lot of staff, a lot of people working for them. They're going to be leveraging AI to reduce staffing, those jobs that are no longer really needed because of that. Those markets are going to have to, those individuals either may have to look for different kind of education, different kind of job altogether, or what have you, or change their skill sets. But let's say all those individuals, get laid off, and other companies that may be very similar or competitors to Amazon, to even other markets, not just the United States. You just got yourselves a whole bunch of insight from that big company. So coming from a garage-based business like Microsoft and Amazon, as well as various others, started in a garage, Apple. You may have just released a dragon on yourself. Who knows, within 5 to 10 years ago, 10 years from now, you're going to have a competing company, which was driven by the people that you just let go. So interesting possible twist. Again, this is my opinion piece on but how does it relate to, bike industry? Well, will there be a disruption of stuff getting into people's hands? Most likely not. Maybe if, some of that stuff is not directed, the partnerships with those brands that sell through Amazon. But needless to say, there's been hardships with a lot of different other companies and layoffs, like we just mentioned, CSS, the composite, YT Industries, various others in the United States, as well as other abroad, having some massive issues. There's a lot more people, a lot less jobs, and a lot lower paying jobs. So would be less need of 30,000 people that may be able to afford or want to ride in the Seattle area on a $10,000 bike. No longer on the table. I mean, that's, if you really think about the impacts of this, it's huge, and it will impact the cycling community. Absolutely. Especially if you're a bike shop that's in walking distance to one of those offices of Amazon. Absolutely. I mean, Seattle's been kind of hit with all sorts of things, because you got REI had a lot of layoffs on their corporate level, and now Amazon. Microsoft is in the area too, I believe. They've probably had some, obviously, and I'm sure they've had layoffs too. So that really makes it harder in the Seattle area economics, because Seattle's expensive to live. It's not much real estate, and they're really built up on themselves. If you don't know the geographic of it, beautiful city. That's really nice. I'd love to live, 9 months out of the year there. It's pretty rainy season, a little bit too much for me personally, but you're looking at a huge pool of money, available cash for families, and probably a lot of those people, both spouses probably worked for Amazon. Sometimes that happens that way. And that's just, huge deficit. Although on the flip side, they're looking to hire on over 200,000 people to help out with the Christmas rush. So you have a marketing degree, you work for Amazon for several years, and you're making a 6-figure income, and now you're going to be driving a little Amazon van and make a tenth of what you were making, just to make something. In any case, that's just one of those. Does it have an effect on the cycling community? Of course, they sell a lot of cycling stuff, but I think it's more impactful to the community and for the cycling community of Seattle, or the other, I forget what other state they have their corporate offices at, but if they reduce that amount, it's massive. And I go back to 2007 when I worked at Big Five Sporting Goods, and they're a chain. If you don't know, they're a chain of sporting goods in the United States, mostly on the west of the Mississippi, over 400 stores. And I went to work for them because at the time, bike shops, I hit the glass ceiling. There's nowhere else for me to go. So I ended up working for them. And I spent about good 8.5, 9 years there, going through the ranks, become a GM and all that. Appealing? Yes. I got paid time off. I had health benefits, all the things that a lot of bike shops didn't provide. Well, I'm working at a store, a GM at a Fort Collins location, and 2007 hit, and Kodak and a couple other companies that are local to our area laid off a whole bunch of people, nothing of the tune of 14,000 people. But if you would include all the companies in the general Front Range area of the northern Colorado area that lost probably that much during that time, the store was absolute crickets going into the off season. I mean, to the point where my supervisor's supervisor would do a pop-in surprise visit just to see if I'm train wrecking the store or what the hell's going on. I mean, when you have the high up CEOs rolling in unannounced going, what's going on here? They walk the store. It's beautiful. Staff is there. Everything's looking good. There's nobody coming in the door. Nobody. So, I mean, that's what we're looking at in places where they have that huge number of employees laid off. Now, take that as you will, but that is going to be a huge cut into bike shops in the Seattle area, all across Seattle area for sure. It's like there's a lot of bike shops there, but on top of, maybe they're probably not going to hit huge too much because the high-end sell market is kind of flatlined anyway, or gone down, but they're not going to get their bikes tuned up now. They're going to be like, no, don't tune that up. I know you're about ready to work on it. I'll come pick it up. They're going to be asking, how am I going to sell it? Unfortunately, because it's, they're in survival mode at this point. So, and any whatever other marketable industry that's within Seattle besides coffee. I mean, cycling's huge. I mean, going into the ski season, people do ski. There's a couple mountains close by that they go ski at. The whole, ocean activities and so forth are there too. And then you had, disruption of customs stuff because they are a port city. And then you have a downturn, already slowing economy on top of all that. So looking at a huge metropolitan area, this is, another punch below the belt for sure. And is it the right call for them to do? They see it that way. So, there's the tea leaves, in my opinion, piece of the latest news. Snooze. Hopefully, not too much of a Debbie Downer, but you know, there's opportunities. I mean, one door closes, another opens, and I'm a fair believer of that. And hopefully, those individuals can find better scenarios or build their own, and come out of it. You know, I mean, humans are pretty resourceful. When you get in a pinch, I mean, it's not like in the 50s, we just did a punch card and the company lays off everybody and then you just like go jump off a bridge. No, we figure out other ways of find out opportunities of doing whatever we need to do. You know, the AI can, I think, generate some jobs to some level, but they have to be very creative, or opportunities to do other things that you may not have thought of doing yourself individually. Like case in point, myself, right? I'm a one individual running a bike shop out of my garage, running a YouTube channel, shipping stuff across the nation, used parts, doing all the work on it, labor-wise to actual interactions, doing everything a part of that. AI helps me to do that. So those individuals may be able to have opportunity to inspire to go after their dreams or whatever that may be, and able like, oh, well, AI got me fired, but also AI was able for me to take the opportunity of running a small business by myself and being influential within all the media's abilities of, you know, either YouTube or Instagram and all that, or leveraging it. It's painful. I mean, I've been laid off once before. It sucks. And it's, you know, one of the worst things. Like you take it personally. You're at the bottom of the bottom in the moment. But the opportunity of that hardship is not being where I am today. Maybe the person I am today, but put me in the position I am today, and very versatile and able to adapt with the changes of the actual current market that we're in, and able to help hopefully share that experiences and hopefully help other shops that are smaller going, hey, maybe try this. This might help, or don't do that. You know, don't expand right now, even though you're doing good with, you know, repairs. Just don't expand. Hold it tight. Steady the course and focus on the things that are working for you in your market and in what you're doing. And don't take any big steps at this particular juncture, because not that we've ever seen all of this happening before, but we've seen parts of this before in the cycling market. And you don't expand or do anything, but you do focus and double down on stuff that is working, and that may change in 6 months. So you got to be versatile enough, like, change course, where bigger shops and also corporate stores have a hard time changing the direction. They can't move the Titanic that fast, or acknowledge it and then change. Some do, but I think they're becoming a little more versatile in that perspective, or need to be, and listening to people and the people in the front lines of retail. Because if they're not listening, they're going to find themselves making very bad decisions and finding themselves going, oh, we didn't see that coming, but you could have seen it coming. And I'm sure a lot of these people, I mean, pretty much everybody in the United States right now that works for any company is on notice. I mean, even government employees is alike. So yeah, you're going to have everybody. Plan B, myself included. Plan B, C, and D. It's like, just think about it. Try not to overwhelm yourself. Go for a ride. Try to get out of your head. Maybe it's an opportunity for you to like take some time off, anything like that. But there's a lot of opportunity that could be done. But there does sound like there's some hardships to hit first, for sure. All right, let's jump in the chat and check out what you guys are talking about here. All right. Just waiting for it hasn't snowed up there, Joe, in Canada. We've got snow in the high country here. It didn't stick, but you know, it was there. I think I saw a snowflake-ish somewhere for sure. Forbidden Colossus, thanks for joining us. Oh yeah, and we got that. I'm not going to read it out loud, but yeah, we got that going on. when you're yeah, when you have the losses like that, going back to the point, it's huge disruption of your local markets to the point where, all those customers that were coming in. Case I worked for, I'm gonna admit it, I worked at Performance Bike for a hot 3 months, maybe 4, 3, 2.5, in Denver Tech Center, which is in Denver, Colorado, United States. Denver Tech Center was an offshoot. Whole bunch of tall skyscrapers were in that area. That's where in the 80s, the oil boom built up all these skyscrapers and business, and then would crash, and then it was empty for a while, and then they finally built up with a whole bunch of diverse businesses in Denver Tech Center, known to be, not downtown Denver, but, the offshoot, kind of like, I don't know, kind of like Silicon Valley, but very small compared to that. Anyway, we had it, they had a performance store close to one of the big buildings. Massive amount of people on their lunch breaks would hit us hard. Like, you'd have to staff your store, or they had to at the time, from like 11 to 2. Now is your rush for the day, because everybody would be on their lunch break and they'd go pick up their bike stuff. And there was no evening business and no business on the weekends whatsoever. Weirdest shop I ever worked in, because it was very driven and by the environment of the Denver Tech Center, all corporate businesses. So if you take a huge 30,000 employees out of that, it would devastate all the little businesses that support that area. So when you look at all the other things that are being disrupted, layoffs or cutbacks or whatever, plus we're in a shutdown on top of all this, a lot of us are pretty much on notice, like, okay, we're trying to get through it and navigate it. But there are some silver linings to it, and those are doing good. That I've noticed so far is really double down on service and on used, and in really being in tune in their particular markets. Like if it's e-bike centric, where there's a lot of e-bike riders, they're embracing it, they're servicing it, that kind of thing. There's one shop here, which is closer to, I think, HP, where it's a lot of higher income. They're still selling some higher end bikes, not as lot as they would like, but they are still selling some of that high end market. But the service, like a high end market shop, their service, I think, drops harder in the off season, because those individuals, or they'll wait till in season to have their stuff worked on, or they'll do it themselves, that kind of thing. And that's where Canyon became very popular, because somebody that can feel like they can turn, if you can screw in a light bulb, you can basically take a bike out of the box and do 2 screws with a little 3-minute informational video from Canyon, and you'll be riding a bike. I know I'm going to make some of you mechanics mad out there, but it's not perfect, but it's good enough for them to go for one good ride. Then they come to us and go, okay, this is weird, this doesn't fit right, or whatever. Granted, that creates opportunities for the service part. So if a lot of shops at first, man, I mean, there was some chat a couple years ago, like some shops were like, I am not going to touch any of those bikes ever. Hopefully they're still around today, because those are the, one of many other bike brands or direct to consumer, including the ones that they were selling, and now pretty much have to adjust for that. A case being said on that is, like, we're all trying to navigate what the new norm is, and we can't really just be so stick in the mud about things, if you want to put it that way. Because there are them shops that, there's still some shops that carry a lot of attitude still. I had a little questionnaire, and I did it because I had a lot of comments. I was like, okay, does your local shop suck? I mean, like, what's the consensus here? What's it being driven by? Bad attitudes, by the staff, elitism, too much stuff costs too much, like the price points of their bikes and so forth. And that's pretty much the end of the story tells. Like, they were just intimidated by the prices of the bikes. So, if you were in a corporate store that sold a lot of high-end stuff, if you're even an independent bike dealer that does sell a lot of high-end stuff, I mean, you've already probably are known to have that product anyway. So that is your milk. You want to put that in the furthest part of your damn store. Like, you walk in a Walmart, you got to walk a mile to get to the milk. they know it's there. They're going to be looking for it. You may have some of it, bling up front. I would put all your less expensive stuff as possible, cheap as you can go, at front. So when you catch that one individual that comes in that gets sticker shocked by the $20,000 bike that sees in the front, they're going to walk right out. Because right now you need that person to come in and buy that $500 low-end mountain bike or kids bike, because there's some out there still, but that for sales, that's what I would read the room. That's what it comes down to, and that's what that little survey definitely shows. Like, you read the room, make sure you get in price point appropriate stuff. You can have the high fancy stuff, but that is the 2%, and they're not buying right now for the most part. So I don't know. You tell me what you think in your neck of the woods, but there's opportunities for bike shops to leverage the used market, opportunities to leverage the service, crossover to either doing skis and snowboards or other kind of industry stuff, community-based things, that kind of deal. There's a lot of opportunities. There's so much has been built up around the cycling world now that within your niche, there's probably where you think your niche might be this. You can probably streamline it to be a little more focused. I'm doing that on every aspect of what's actually making me money. It's the YouTube directly is not, but I do have to applaud to give it, let as bike shop people out there, you can leverage YouTube and not see the money coming in from YouTube or sponsors or affiliate sales or any of that. But like I've mentioned before in my other videos, half of my service was driven by individuals seeing me working on bikes from in my local market. That's a huge, impactful push in my service department without having to do anything. Just think about it. That was my advertising. And advertising, you're throwing money out there and you're hoping you catch something. This is like direct, interactive, and people have seek me out, which is great. And to the point where my service is pushed out quite a bit. Even now in the off season, going into the off season, I'm still over a month out on doing service. Granted, I restructured it. I don't do volume, but what I need to do to keep the lights on is covered for the next month and a half. Can your shop say that? So granted, those people come in and drop their bikes off, but I have all other projects that I'm doing, refurbishing parts, listing parts, consignment sales, all those other things in addition to. So stuff I sell on eBay. Had some people like, hey, I watch your channel on YouTube. They're buying stuff from eBay. So there's a lot of opportunities leveraging your social media. I'd really would give it a better look, a longer look, and utilize that to help, show your brand, build up your brand. And it might take you to a totally different direction. There's one successful individual, and granted, not very many are hugely successful in YouTube specifically. It's like a 1% kind of thing, and maybe 2% to do okay. I fit into 3%-ish, but one individual skyrocketed, is over 100,000 subs right now. He's basically shut his store down, still does bike videos, and he's going in off season as a fat cat, as least I can see. He made, his cost of living is pretty low where he lives. I mean, he's doing pretty darn well. And don't worry about being oversaturated. There's no oversaturated in the cycling circle, guarantee you. As long as you can find enough people that like your personality, and that's another thing too. Sometimes you just can't. Some people are afraid of the camera. It's fine. Some people, it took me a while to be this comfortable of just talking to myself in the garage for hours on end. It is a different skill set. I don't even know if it's a skill set, but it's something that it definitely helped my existence of what I want to do, and it will continue to. And I'm finding opportunities where I would not have thought of ever thinking I'd have opportunities of. So therefore, I think that's the silver lining of all of this is like, if, yeah, you get lemons, you make lemonade. Well, I know it's really hard to do when you're in the moment, but opportunities like me, several years later, I'm doing great. And guess where that bike shop is today that decided to let me go. They no longer exist. So sweet revenge. No, I'm not spiteful one bit. Son of a bitch. Anyway, yeah, it was weird, but it actually worked out. And you know, and there's a lot of, you know, if you could find opportunities and silver linings to different changes. So there alludes to what I want to feature. I want to feature one of you guys. They're watching one of my channels and have been watching my channel for a while. And they just recently opened up a shop. And I think it is in Salt Lake, so it's going to be close to you. And let me see. And I haven't had any conversations with this individual that's opened up the shop. But you know, it's like, hey, I watched your stuff. Thank you. You know, saw his handle. Oh, look it up. It's like, just opened up the shop. Been watching your videos for years. I watched a couple of his videos. Downrange bikes works. You know, Halo, I think his name is. And yeah, website's not huge. Looks like he has a little shop. He does service. Probably sells maybe a couple lines. It looks like one of those industrial units. If I was ever going to go into the bike shop world, that's the kind of thing I would do again if I was going to do retail space. And I would be buying that space, not renting retail space, even though it may not have the perfect retail front. But quite honestly, you can take a page out of my book and go, hey, you can do a YouTube channel, a couple other social media things. And if you build it, they will come and they will find you. And if you do good work, they don't care going to an industrial park. Hell, they don't care driving to a small neighborhood in like an hour and a half north of Denver. I mean, so if I get enough business, you know, if you own your own building, you got a steady base of expense. That's not going to change on you. You can build it up from there, and you can build it up in different ways. And it doesn't always have to be the footprint. And if you get in trouble, you still have real estate. So you still have something. Either you rent it out or cut it out and rent some of it. Majority of the bike shop owners that have done really well, they have multiple locations and they're very, very established over the years. Most of them own their own properties. In that case. So he has a pretty interesting history. He was in the Army. You know, he's working on bikes, and seems like a pretty personable cat. Here's the guy, and he has a channel on YouTube. So not very many subscribers yet. So give him some love if you're watching this. Go to his channel if you think it's kind of cool. You know, support a small business. He supports his community, which is a big win. He definitely states it here. Local high school team as well. He's also a vet. There's a lot of, you know, feel good moments with this. I like to see the guys succeed and that kind of thing. So yeah, go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe. Just, you know, watch his stuff and give him some warm love to the community. Let's put that to the YouTube community. He does, you know, free pickup and delivery, South Jordan, West Jordan. So looks like he did, you know, mostly does the mountain bike type thing. And this is where this is interesting to me, because why I feature this is a small shop, and some of you guys are small shops, and maybe you don't have your own locations, or maybe you're just mobile, maybe you have something similar to this. But as a small shop, looking at his rates is and what he does for what the dollar amount is pretty good for a consumer. And this is you know, if you're a avid cyclist, this gives you two things. One, it gives you the price, because you know, people don't want to spend too much money, and this gives you, you know, a huge laundry list of things that he does for the dollar. And guess what? You get to meet the mechanic. That's one of my big successes, is because a lot of people want to know their mechanic and have, build a relationship with their mechanic. And that goes two ways. Like, I take care of them and I do a little extra work all the time, for sure. Not a problem with that, because that's just how I am. And then they just keep bringing me bikes to work on. So it's a two-way street. And, sometimes, I won't charge for certain things. And if they need something in a hot minute, I do have, like, if you're part of the group, of my community, it's like, yeah, I'll find time, that kind of thing. So his prices are not, not too terrible. But yeah, he laundry lists all of them on there. His site's not too deep, but his channel, he has, like, I think 8 videos, but all pretty current. And he's just starting out. And I watched a couple of them, and he has one about, bikes saved him. I haven't finished watching it yet, but in any case, just wanted to give you a shout out, and just, this is what I see. I guess you do have a service and pricing, but it doesn't look like you have too much in the, I would build up, appointment scheduler if you're watching this, or if you have a site that's similar to this. And I believe, Google has, if you pay for their professional office portion of it, they have a scheduler they just released that you can implement. And that's what I do. I use Calendly right now for all my appointments, and I'm looking at switching that over to the Google one. I'm going to be testing it this January to cut costs, because I'm paying a certain amount subscription for that. But setting up appointments, and therefore you're more of an appointment-based business, and instead of just straight up front door and let them come in business, which you can still do that, that's fine. But that the appointment-based, quite honestly, gives you a lot more freedoms, especially when you're one dude working in a shop by yourself and you want to take a time off and take some vacation. The appointment-based is definitely the way to go, or help leverage continuous revenue when you're not working. And I set mine up for not just for service, but also for showing bikes that I list on my website to sell. In addition to, like, parts that are used or whatever you want to pick up and buy, and you just pick up at the store or ship. So there's a lot of different variabilities here. I know this is probably just out of the box website, but if you can up the game, during the off season, because I'm pretty sure South and West Jordan has off season, because it's Salt Lake. Therefore, you can probably implement some of that and focus on some, tutorials of your niche and what you do, and some tech tips and all that. Don't worry about, giving too much away, because it's already out there, but people will kind of like you as who you are. And I'm sorry. Let's see here. Yep. Yeah. I would say this is I'd like to go, stop by and say, hey, check out your shop. This is, it's kind of cool. Milo, that's his name. Milo. His videos has a great little apron. His Milo on his his name is like, it's like, yeah, he's already figured that out, right? Because you're like, you want to put your branding on you. Polite Chihuahua, thank you. Welcome back. Thank you for chiming in. I hope you had a good trip, that you're gone for a couple weeks. Hopefully it was fun, not like work related, or, hopefully it was good. Did go to a lot of cool shops, a lot of historical bikes hanging on the wall. They mostly do e-bikes and rentals now, as they are a tourist area. Yeah, a lot of shops are converting. You kind of have to, that kind of thing being said. Did you ever have forbidden classes? Do you ever had a repair van, or do house call type repairs? When I first early on started doing this, I did a couple. I learned really quick in a hot freaking minute. That's just number one, a huge time suck, and you're just walking into not a win-win situation. Let's put it that way. You get a bike and you're working on it, and you have the tools, but maybe you don't have the brake pads or whatever, like, or something. It's really hard to do it in the professional level that I wanted it to do it. So I implore all of you that do mobile, because that's hard work. I mean, needlessly, you have to set up a appointment schedule, and you have to run around all over the place and driving and set up, and you have the weather. And if you have vans big enough, you can get it inside, but it's like all that. It is hard work. And, obviously, well, maybe not so obvious to some of you, mobile has not been, it's been around for a long time. I remember back in the 90s or 80s, actually, there was Any and All Bikes, which is an outfit here in Denver, Colorado, that had 3 or 4 vans, and they took old UPS trucks and converted them, and they did all over. But it's hard work, because those guys would work like nonstop throughout the whole season. And when it was dead in off season, they would be just retooling. So it's the cost of it was so absorbent between having the van, the insurance, and all the tools and all that, and the time and all that. I mean, some people can make it work, but here's the thing. Scaling up it's not scaling up. You can't scale. I mean, the only time you can scale up is charge more money, because there's only so many tune-ups you can do in a day. There's only so much driving you'll be willing to do. And then again, if anything comes up, like the school calls and I need to go pick up my daughter, yeah. So it's very trouble. So I pulled back from that pretty quickly. And then I was like, well, I'll really just focus on what I'm doing here. And I was doing refurbishing bikes and selling them. And that was like the little ticket, that starting point, what I was doing. So I was taking like a $300, $400 bike, fixing it up, selling it for 6 or 7, basically what the tune-up and parts would be, which really was really what it was. It's not like I was making much more margin off of that, which is fine, because it covered everything. And then I didn't have to go anywhere. And I set up a little area where I can fit people. So I can, put them on a trainer and do a little static fit and make them feel a little more comfortable with the bike and how it shifts and all that, just like your local old school bike shops would do. And that has changed so much since then. I mean, now full bikes are not a sellable item very well. And parting out bikes and parts and frames and custom builds are more of a different direction that's really lucrative now, and doing a whole bunch of service work and boutique service work. I've built up a client base that really wants those extra level services, detailing the frames, waxing the chain, knowing their mechanic and trusting what they will get back. It will be the best service that can possibly get. And I've gotten a situation where I'm not overwhelming myself. I'm not doing volume. So there alludes that you get better service when you're in that scenario. I mean, you have time to work on something, and yeah, it takes me a little bit of time to get your bike back to you. I'm not a 24-hour turnaround, not at all. And I actually refuse to do that, because I try to do that. And what you get a stressed out mechanic and get shitty work. So yeah, give me some time to do it, and you will get a really good quality tune out of it without paying too much, cheaper still than the local market. And then you know your mechanic, the person that's working on your bike, and you have that personal connection, and then you entrust, because a lot of people name their bikes. They're like, because that's their part of their life experience. Like, that's the community that you're trying to reach out and get them to ride bikes and be a part of, and that kind of thing. So that's a really good question. And how I shifted to where I am today. And the thing is if regardless of where you're at in your bike shop journey, as long as you can leverage and work for opportunity where you can make it grow, where you want it to grow or you think you might want it to grow, and also work the angles where it doesn't stress the heck out of you all the time. Because you got to have a little bit of a life, and you got to be a little bit flexible, especially if you're a one person only owning your one shop. That's, I mean, I can't go any smaller than I am unless it's going part-time. That being said, there's opportunities to grow in other directions. And I had a couple good conversations with a couple other colleagues within the actual industry. And I'm like, yeah, you get all mad about people buying stuff off of Amazon. And I get it. Been there, because I hated performance, although I ended up working for them for a short stint, because your customer would come in and buy, like, oh, can you install this chain? And you're mad because, like, why didn't you buy it from me? But then again, they bought the chain lower than your cost. So you're like, it's like, it is the lose-lose. Here's the win-win. This is quite simple. It's like, yeah, you're mad at them buying it off of there. Well, why aren't you leveraging that? He's like, why am I not? I mean, Amazon has an affiliate. If you have a little YouTube channel or TikTok or whatever, have enough subscribers, you can go on their affiliate program, and then you can, like, oh, I don't carry it, but here's a link to Amazon. You can buy it there and I'll install it. You're not going to get the sell. You're not going to get any money anyway. They're not going to buy it from you anyway. Let's put it that way. But of the commissions, you may get a little bit of something. That's better than nothing, right? So if you work on that in that perspective, so yeah, you're getting in bed with the lion. Beware, because it may not be work, but at least something versus nothing. It makes you feel a little bit better about it. I'm really mostly just focusing on the labor costs. That's where the profitability for me goes in. I'm not really looking for profitability on parts and accessories, because that is becoming very eroded right now. In addition to, you're competing against everybody else that's selling it online. Even though I can get a contract with a company and be able to buy chain wax and bar tape and all that at cost at 40%, but when I go try to sell that, I'm still competing with that main company because they're still selling direct to consumer. So unless it makes sense for me just to stock it, I get the lower price, sure. But for my business model, it's really streamlined. It's really not that I'm buying a lot of inventory. The inventory I do put money into is the used bikes that I purchase to either fix up to refurbish to sell, or to upcycle the parts and the frame, whatever makes a little more sense. So in that case, and able to sell those parts and everything, which has become very lucrative this time of market, because a lot of people are looking to fix up their stuff. And if you get a right mix of parts to list and frame and so forth, you'll find yourself in that boat too, going, oh, that's going to make me a lot more money out of parts and refurbished with my backing of working on them and inspecting them than it is as a complete bike, where they're going to go, can you take another $100 off of that? And I'm like, you just kill me. When there's a lot of positives for it too. So, whoop, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, I was just scrolling. Oh, what a bike! What's a bike mechanic getting paid these days? Working at a shop. That's a good question. I don't get paid enough, but I'm doing it for more of a passion piece, and a longer. That's where a lot of people, that forbidden colossus, that's where a lot of people that have been in the industry, that do want to stay in the industry, and they haven't jumped to becoming a bike rep or working for a bike manufacturer. They've gone to work for corporate stores, either REI, Trek Corporate, Specialized Corporate, or Pond Holdings Corporate, which is Mike's Bikes in the States. That's what's pretty much what I've seen in the United States, because they provide 401ks, livable salaries to the most part, pay time off, all, health and dental, stuff like that. All the things that a normal job that a lot of bike shops can't provide, even including my parents' Barker bikes. I mean, we had healthcare and that was it, but we didn't get paid time off. Overtime was never, we were salary or out of salary. So it was like, it's one of those things where, yeah. And They may not, the corporate stores may not, pay a lot, but you get something out of it that helps out the other aspects of your life. So yeah, that's where I would say they don't get paid enough. And again, that's the most expensive part of any business for the most part. In case of 14,000 people losing their jobs recently. So you can't AI automated bike salespeople. You can't AI make service techs. And there's a lot of weight on us too. There's a lot of training or a lot of learning that we have to go through just to service just the basic of the basic bikes. And then when you add all the parts and the intricacies of the newer componentry, the Di2, electric assist, all those things, it's maddening at how much you have to learn now to just be able to be a decent bike tech. And then you have to keep up on all of that, which is almost impossible to do. To be quite honest, because it's almost like you learn how to do the basics and you basically Google the rest as you go along. And that's where it's kind of like, if you're an artist and you're a good artist, it doesn't matter like, oh, they're going to commission you to paint on a wall of a building or you're going to do a canvas. It's like, you're going to be able to figure it out. That's where the skill set really is. How well are you able to figure it out? What's your skill set of problem solving, basically, and willing to have patience to go along with that. That's pretty much who your modern day mechanic is today. And, honestly, there's a lot of people that chime in and go, hey, I could do that myself. No. I watch YouTube videos and all that. It's like, that's fine. That's fine. We're here for all the other people that don't have time to do it, don't want to do it. They realize that they actually are willing to pay to have that service done because first, they know they don't want to do it themselves. They rather go ride their bike versus spend a half a day in the garage trying to figure out why their sealant's not working on their tubeless tire, or because they've only been experienced to maybe a handful of bikes versus you look at a bike mechanic, they've seen over a couple hundred bikes a season easily. So somewhere along the lines, they've learned something, certain tricks to make that sealant seal better, or where the problems are, hydraulic brakes. Don't get me started on hydraulic brakes. Yeah, it's just, and then you just got all the other stuff, the wackadoodle stuff, and the people that want you to work on. I'm just reading the comments here. Oh, yeah, Forbidden Colossus here at here in San Francisco. Ooh, that's got to be a crazy market. I've heard some really good stores in that area, the Bay Area, but man, that's like stack. That's worse than Seattle. Stack on stack on stack of people. It's insane. It's nice. Yeah, but I'm sure you get a whole bunch of different crazy stuff there for sure. Absolutely. Oh, Scott Nelson, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it very, very much. Don't get a lot of those, which is fine. I'm the advocate of. There's a list of affiliates in my description, so that helps me support me too. So, and you get something. I'm kind of the person who like, you get something, you get something, I get something. It's all good, and it's gonna be like the Amazon thing. It's like you're gonna go shopping anyway, right? Just follow my link, and I'll get a little help there, here, and there. Don't worry, I won't know who it is. So all your private purchases from Amazon will be still private. Just I'll just see what they are. Just kidding. But yeah, that's a lot of ways there. You can help generate some, what is called passive income. If you guys don't know what that is, I'm sure you know what it is. If you could build up a passive income to some level, it might help keep the lights on in the winter. Might be able to give you enough money to take your significant other out to dinner. You're not going to, what I've seen so far and what I've experienced so far, You're not going to make huge bank unless you 10x what I'm at right now to some level. Then you work on brand deals, and that's a whole new realm that a bike mechanic like me is not really tapped into. At some point, sure, but possibly. But the thing is you know, I'm just trying to be true to my values, true to my community, true to be, you know, non-Kool-Aid drinking, my perspective. Yeah, I'd love to review some of the newer bikes out there and just be like, why are you doing this? It's like, you know, do you need this, or this is kind of cool, you know? And that's, you know, it's like they built stuff for a reason, but sometimes they get over the top kind of thing. But you know, guys, and I've seen some newer stuff that came through my shop for repairs or custom builds. Fairlight, which was really cool. If you really like steel frames and Reynolds steel, custom tubing made from Reynolds for them to build up frames, and they're out of England. If you're looking at gravel and want something really unique and cool and actually rides really well, that's somewhere to look, as well as others. But in any case, I mean, that's where, you know, I really enjoy what I'm doing. And also I really enjoy my community. You guys watch me and chiming in. Jigglypuff 64. Good name. I learned the hard way. Spent 3 days putting on my headset and hydraulic brakes together. Just go down to the shop and pay them now. My time is worth more. That's what it is. I mean, okay, honestly, I do implore any of you to try it. Like, try to do the brakes, try to do hydraulic, try to adjust the headset and all that. But please, God, go to the bike shop and have a double check to make sure it's safe to ride. That's the number one thing, safety. Second, it's like you learn something about the bike and you learn that you don't want to do it yourself. Number one. Number two, you know, you're taken to a professional has done like 10 bike bleeds that week. So they're going to have all this stuff. They're going to go walk through and navigate all the issues, get you going. And that, you know, that's the thing. And in your time value, it's like, okay, would you want to spend, hey, if you have all the time in the world and you're retired and you got half afternoon to tinker on a bike, great. If you're like me, that every freaking minute of the day is counted for something, not by me, by something else, like life. Yeah, you're going to go, I don't want to spend 2 hours working on this. I want 2 hours riding this thing. Therefore, that I don't do plumbing anymore. I can do it. I don't. Any kind of electrical work? Oh, hell no. Don't want to end up in the ER with electrical shock. My hair would be more spikier than it is now. You know, there's a lot of things that, you know, I don't mind doing sweat labor equity on as the time appropriate. But therefore, that's where the higher skilled tool expense is usually really more implore you to go have that headset or the bottom bracket put in or the hydraulic lines laced on that bike, because that's going to save you hours and frustration, and that frustration should not be there in the first place. And you should be out riding your bike and be de-stressed. So yeah, good for you to owning up like, yeah, no, but I do implore people to try doing some things. And it's good to know how to set up a tubeless, at least do one. Then you realize it's worth the $20 for somebody else to do it, because you don't want that freaking mess on your floor ever. And I'll do them. Are they my favorite thing to do? No, but I do them and I don't mind doing them. But I've learned a few tricks to make it a little easier for me and less of a mess. Man, the first few of those I did, I was like, who in the right mind would ever want to do this? Why aren't we charging like hundreds of dollars to do this? This is horrible. But once you get it streamlined, it's like, okay, it's a 20-minute job. I like to let them sit overnight in my shop so I can make sure that everything stays to pressure. So yeah, it's the best experience possible for the customer. Most of mine are related to a tune-up anyway, so they're here, and I try to get that done first part. Therefore, when I'm doing the rest of the work in a day or two, so especially when I'm doing ceramic coating and so forth, I could spin a day, and then I know that, well, they least hell there for a couple of days in my shop, so we should be good. Especially if they're using used stuff like a used set of tires and so forth. So yeah, that's something. Oh, thanks, Scott, for following. Follow you on Amazon. I can only find it by using the link in your video. Yeah, I'm still trying to learn how to leverage that Amazon piece. Amazon's not easy. It's not counterintuitive being an influencer on there, or you apply for the influencer. They basically, I have a link to my store on there, which I've selected items, and I've started doing little videos for products directly onto Amazon. And that's, I don't know any more than that. I'll dive into more of that going into the off season as a bike mechanic, just wrenching and working on a checkpoint, working on a roubaix. I just fixed 2 FX2s to be refurbished to sell. I have another newer checkpoint that needs the high level chain waxing, wax coating. Then I have another truck hybrid to work on that needs brakes to be bled from Rush, which is a mineral oil based brake system that truck used, but I never heard of the brand before. So that's going to be fun. And then find a random tick noise. Yeah. So that's my week. Oh, just the Amazon store link is in the description. Just follow that, and the breadcrumb cookie trail will be fruitful for all of us. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Absolutely appreciate it. I appreciate all you helping out in any form. And if you're just sharing, just sharing this, it's very interesting how this channel is, especially the Shop Talk Tuesday is converted more into some, cyclists, avid cyclists, or former individuals have been in industry to a lot of shops are playing this in the background. I was at a shop this week and I was like, oh yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I'd like to, do a review on some of these newer bikes at some point, because I was asking if they had any rentals, and they're like, oh yeah, we watch you. I'm like, oh really? Oh, weird. I'm very humble. I'm like, wow, you're watching my stuff, really? Okay, sounds great. It's just yeah, it's weird. It's I don't mind it. I enjoy it. I love doing it. And I do love running into people that do watch my stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I'm just at the level right now. I'm just like, I'm not used to that. This is kind of like, oh, I watch your stuff and we think you're okay. I was like, I hope I didn't say anything dumb, which I probably do, which is fine because we all say dumb things, and hey, correct me. I mean, if it's like, oh no, it should be this or to be that or whatever, cool. Any other insights you can share with the community, even cool. I'm trying to come up with a concept of how can I leverage my channel to leverage other shops without having to spend so much time on their own to promote their smaller business and so forth and that kind of thing, and not really be a cost to them for me being used. I don't know, trying to figure out some kind of a win-win there where, they get an uptick on either service and sales being just identified, and somehow, I don't know, I get some kind of monetization of some other avenue, revenue stream, whatever. So that none of us are paying for it. Somebody else is paying for it. Amazon's paying for it. You know what I mean? Like somebody that has billions of dollars is paying for it, us doing what we do. That's what I'm trying to look for. So if anybody has any great ideas, please comment, and we'll look into them for sure. So at the end of the day, as bike mechanics and people in the cycle industry, we love bikes. And at some point, it saved us from going either bat crazy or something, better health, whatever. There's a lot of different perspectives of cycling that's influenced a lot of people from various directions, either mental state, physical state, giving them a direction, got them out of a scenario where they were in that was bad, or kept them going. Off the top of my head, Kurt, he basically survived a heart attack because he's been riding avidly since he's retired. That bought a bike from me. Could it be that saved him, or his GNA? Who knows? But it didn't hurt, you know. And his recovery was so darn quick. It was like he had his heart attack in March. He was able to ride his age, which I think he just turned 72, in one day 4 months later. Like, holy cow. I mean, and unfortunately, my dad passed away from a heart attack. So if my dad would have rode a little bit more, it would, it makes you think. And you don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but, it does hit a chord. But it saved, me. It got me out of being dumb 20-year-old. It gave me a purpose. It put me in a direction that I was better off. And here I am today trying to give back to that community and cycling and try to uplift shops and give them opportunities or give them thoughts and ideas of where they can, help them improve where they can improve and become better shops and better to their communities and spread the love, basically, to, we all love cycling. And you never know how impactful you will be on one individual in your shop that either a customer or employee alike, and you will change their lives without even knowing it. And for the better, hopefully. So anyway, you had a random tick noise on your bike? The mechanics hate that. I mean, it could be a quick win, but if it's a carbon frame, boy, that tick could be a couple hour deal. Took a few rides for me, and what it turned out to be the end of one of my shoelaces in the crank. Oh man, yeah, I was doing that though. I mean, I was working on a bike and. Like I waxed the chain and cleaned the drivetrain and put tubeless tires on there. And it's one of those GRX derailleurs. I just did the brakes, right? So, I just got the brake set and cleaned and the rotors straightened and all that. And, I checked that first and was like, okay, it's braking good. And I'm doing the gears and all of a sudden I'm hearing this rubbing. I'm like, oh, damn, it must be those brakes. Must have came out of rotor, must have something got a jar or whatever. No, he had a new cable put in. I put the cable in there, and the cable hasn't been cut yet because I want to make sure it's adjusted. And as I'm adjusting, the cable was rubbing up against the rim just enough to make that rubbing sound of a disc brake. So it took me like 2 minutes, like, oh, it's just me. But I had that panic, like, oh, I'm going to have to tear this whole thing apart again. So we've all had those moments like, oh, it's just me being dumb. Not saying you're dumb, not at all whatsoever. Me, I do dumb things all the time, all day long. And good thing I'm working by myself because I only see my own dumbness most of the time. My wife is subjected to it, and my daughter sees it, but she doesn't, acknowledge if it's dumb. I can play it off so far. When she gets older, she's 9 now, but when she gets older, she's gonna be like, Dad, what are you being dumb? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just old. All right. Should be jumping off here soon. I got things to do. Obviously, I just rolled off a whole bunch of things I need to be working on. Okay. Forbidden classes. You got another question here. What we got? Do you think Bosch or Bros is the most dependable e-bike motor? Sorry, not sure if you deal with e-bikes. I don't. I mean, I work on bikes that have e-bike motors on them and batteries periodically here and there. That is not my niche. I mean, I have a couple of good customers. They have a plethora of bikes, right? So yes, I will work on the shifting or the brakes or waxing the chains and so forth. But for me, I have vetted Josh at Precision e-bike, which is up at Fort Collins, Colorado. He's the one that's going to know the hard details of the Bosch motor, the Bros motor, any other ones that with batteries and testing and all that. He'll have more of an insights of the dependability on those things for sure, and the brands, what they're going on. I think Specialized, I was just in there. They said all they're going. I think they're going through Broche on all their stuff now, so it's a little bit streamlined. So even the companies of the bigger brands, they've waffled through different brands of motors, and some of them didn't do so good, or their design wasn't so great. But I have not had a lot of experience with those. My niche is a little bit more derivative to the me bikes versus the e-bikes, which is, it's still plenty of work for me to keep me busy in that perspective of it. So, but there is, either reach out to Josh at Precision E-Bike for that question, or the e-bike specialist in your neck of the woods. There's a few, and they're popping up, and some shops are becoming a little more abrasive to that. Josh is pretty cool because he has a couple of brands, but he doesn't carry like big Kool-Aid brands. So he's going to be a little more objective on what he's seen, what he's done. And also he's been doing e-bike stuff for 20 years. So you got that. I mean, you got that knowledge of it. I mean, I could only hope to even know like 10% of what he has acquired over all those years. So that's where you want to find a vet for those particular very technical questions of which one's better. I was like, if it's working that day, it's great. Needs to be charged up. Don't have the charger for that. Hey guys. Oh yeah, so I want to leave you with this one last insert. It's for those who want that are refurbishing bikes. There was a 5200 bike, and this is where I've gotten some wheels from, and they're custom built rim brake wheels, and you can get them in carbon and so forth.
The Wheel Warehouse in California has an excellent selection of wheels to choose from. They're pre-built, or also you can have them custom built up to various sizes. You can reach out to them directly if you have something unique like the 650 wheel or a different style hub. Therefore, it makes it an excellent bike wheel set company that actually provides good wheel sets without breaking the bank. You will find them being very trusted and true. They really hold up under a lot of different riding conditions and so forth. It takes the standard old school wheel building practices and puts them in a better format. But in any case, this is a wheel set you'll be really love to have. It'll perform for you for a long period of time, and the quality and the attention to detail is superb. You'll find information about this company in the description below, with also my personal coupon code. I hope you find a good wheel set where it works for you.
There you have it. Buzzard Wheel Warehouse in California. So yeah, old school wheel builder. That's the thing, is I think a lot of I mean, there's a lot to bicycles, a lot of different parts and a lot of different niches. But if you can find the niche, or if you find the person that fits that niche in that particular perspective of what you're looking for, like either a wheel set or e-bike motors or batteries or conversions and that kind of thing, there is going to be a subset, especially in bigger communities, of those shops to be able to basically perform really well and give you the best service possible. And if you're one of those shops, you might find yourself in one of those irrigating ditches, and you won't be able to climb out of it. It's just how it is, and that's where you are, and that's what you're known for. And gotta embrace it, love it, keep it going. No. Light show. I did not see the article about the fusion fiber wheels. Oh yeah, wheel building is American classic Americana. Yeah, definitely. Especially when you use Wheelsmith spokes and instead of DT, and you tension them and you do spoke prep and all that stuff. Yeah, we used to custom build wheels back in the 90s. Tons of them. Then the manufacturing wheels became a little bit, I don't know, more Kool-Aid and fancy and all that. And it's an art for sure. My dad taught me. I don't do them now. Nope, that's a lost practice for me. I got other things I got to focus on, like editing videos. And making sound on my videos better, and coloring and lighting, and bringing more content that's more appropriate and viable and relevant. That's the word I was looking for. In any case, I gotta go do lunch and make sure my daughter doesn't even be picked up at school yet, and all that good stuff. And check all the crazy texts like, oh, we got a 150,000 equity loan, which is probably from some mob. Anyways, thank you all for joining my Shop Talk Tuesday. And yeah. Oh, I'll answer that. Do the most. F9M. Oh, that's a long question to be answered. But in any case, they ask, is Trek made in USA? Never asked a question, but your channel is cool. Thank you. Trek did build bikes in the United States for a good chunk. They started in 77, I believe. And they were started off with basically like road bike and touring frames back then. They blew up their company in the 90s of carrying other bike lines like Le Mans, Gary Fisher, Gary Klein, Bontrager. And they had the reason why they brought on those lines is their manufacturing in the United States, Waterloo, Wisconsin, was underperforming. Basically, they could not underperforming, but they could do so much more production. I do have a couple of videos in my library about that, especially with John Bradley. So look those up to get more insights on that. But they built Treks and their various brands in-house, which is basically their frames. They also did some wheels at some point too in the United States. But when you look at componentry like shifters and brakes and those kinds of things, those are always been sourced overseas, and tires and grips and all that. Because it takes a lot of different parts to make a bike. So, but primarily when they said built in the United States was the frame, possibly the fork. And when you get to about 2007, 2008, this is one of those stories I got from one of the engineers, a former engineer of Trek. They went over to Taiwan to see if they can make a lower and expensive road bike frame. And they found out the quality that they were doing and the craftsmanship of the carbon fiber over exceeded what we can do in the States. And for them to even get to comparable, it would be such an uplift of technological advances in their production lines that it would not make sense to do. So they shifted all their manufacturing from United States over to Taiwan. And then they're now, most of their stuff's made either in Cambodia and Vietnam. Currently, they do build, I think, some of their high-end Project One stuff, but it's very, very, very small compared to what they used to be. So to switch gears for them to go back to manufacturing in the United States would be almost impossible, and cannot be done overnight. Even in a company that used to, they may still have some of the buildings available for them to do something like that. The tooling and the manufacturing switch over would take a good decade, if not longer, to get anywhere to a volume they were doing back then. And now they're doing quadruple the volume because the market's a lot bigger. So that in a nutshell, great question. I hope I answered that pretty good for you. And then, yeah, I do have other videos that do kind of relate to the Trek journey and all that. So, any case. Check out the movie called Colossus. Okay. I will add that to my laundry list of movies to watch. Oh, you ran into Gary Fisher on the ferry boat in San Francisco? He's an interesting cat. I met him in person once. He's one bizarre dude. Nothing bad. Just he is his own man in every fashion, every unique way. And he is a freaking hoss on a mountain bike. Last time I seen him, he rode with some shop, and he blew him away. And then he outdrank him on the table. So it's like, whoa. He is the man, myth, and legend, and sometimes he watches. So Gary Fisher, if you're watching today, hi from Colorado. And John says hi. Bradley, he knows him from the 90s. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Right. I made your bike. That sounds like Fisher. Like, I do have one little Fisher story. I'll tell this before I leave. It's like Gary Fisher was basically ponied out by Trek to go out to. I make that sound bad, but he had a line of bikes still being made at Trek, and it was still the full line. And we had a store opening here in Loveland, Colorado, and they carried Trek and Specialized, but they sent Fisher out for the grand opening. Apparently, they didn't have enough Fishers on the floor, and he was kind of made a little side note like, "Where's my bikes?" Like, fair point. Like, you're here for a grand opening of a Trek corporate, and not a Trek corporate store. It was a Trek concept store. That's when they're doing the concept store thing. And Fisher was there for the grand opening. He was kind of miffed. And then he went riding with the buddies, put everybody, burned everybody mountain biking, and then drink everybody on the table. And, so yeah, that was one of the times I think I met him at a show or two too. Cool cat, very unique stories. It's, I think he's left Trek and he's now venturing his own e-bike thing. I'm not sure where it's at right now, but I think he was going to come out or collaborate with building another e-bike thing. In any case, thank you all for hanging out with me. It's been a pleasure. Makes you to make this channel, so I highly appreciate you all making this come to fruition. And thanks for listening to a guy in the garage just tinkering on bikes and talking about his crazy stories and stuff he's working on, and also the industry bits. And we're you're not alone. And please, if it's nice in your neck of woods, please go for a ride. And again, if you like this content, please like and subscribe. And to that channel that I just threw out there. Oh, where did his website go? Lost it. Downrange Bike Works. And he didn't put his YouTube channel on his website. I'll put his email, or not email, put his website in the chat. I'll look up the link for the YouTube, and I'll put it in the description below as a shout out. In any case, thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope it's wonderful in your neck of the woods. And if it's getting colder, just layer up. We'll get this together, get through this together. And those who are in Florida, we are basically really jealous at this point. In any case, thanks again for hanging out, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day. Wonderful day. Wonderful, wonderful day. Ooh. I do a little end screen, so when I do the little pop-ups, it's not cutting into my last 10 minutes of talking. In any case, part of the editing trick. Time to step up and stretch.